Steve, now that we have a pretty good idea about what the Bulls roster is going to look like heading into next season, how would you assess their overall strengths and weaknesses, and how would you say they stack up against the rest of a changing Eastern Conference?
Well, I think that they're going back to Derrick and depth, and those are the stars of the team. They did this 4 years ago, and LeBron James started guarding Derrick Rose, and that was that. And the Miami Heat with LeBron James went to the NBA Finals 4 straight years, winning 2 of them. So the Bulls decided they're going to go back to that now that LeBron James has changed the landscape of the Eastern Conference, which was bad. It's a little more splintered. But here's a problem for the Bulls. They have Derrick Rose, but he's not the MVP. This is 2 knee surgeries later. And they have a lot of big men who are a lot less athletic. So the depth they have, probably guys who could make more shots, but they're not athletic defensively. And that was the key to the Bulls becoming a really good team, a contender. It was Derrick and the depth. The bench mob was far better, far more athletic. They don't have anybody else who can get their own shot, and they're not sure what kind of Derrick Rose they're going to get. They're lucky that everybody in the Eastern Conference is getting worse.
You know, you mentioned the bench mob, Steve. Tom Thibodeau has always been a little bit reluctant to go too deep into his bench, but maybe that's because he didn't have the depth that he has now. Do you see him taking a little more of a page from his old book and using those bench players a little more aggressively than he did perhaps last year?
I won't believe it until I see it, because he's got youngsters, he's got old guys, he's got people he has to play. He's got a lot of different pieces. I can see him experimenting, but most coaches' DNA, especially when they're defensive-minded coaches like him, err on the side of only people they can trust. They usually can only trust veterans. They only trust people who can play defense. And that's what the Paul Gasol, Joakim Noah, Taj Gibson run at the end of a game is going to create a problem. And here's the problem. Do you play all 3 of them? Can you play all 3 of them? Who guards the 3? Paul Gasol has the ability to get to score, certainly more than Noah and Taj Gibson. But do you trust him to guard anybody, or does he just guard the rim at 7 feet? I don't know that Tom Thibodeau has the answers. I think there'll be some experimenting, and I think he's going to have to be a little more flexible. That's the kind of team that's been presented to him.